Welcome to World Report. I'm George Howell. Britain's top diplomat says a ground invasion of Gaza would cost Israel a lot of international support. Those comments from Foreign Secretary William Hague as violence flared on both sides of the conflict. Palestinian rockets fell in Israel. And Israeli air raids continued in Gaza. This woman you see here was trapped in rubble in Gaza City. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns that Israel is prepared to significantly escalate its military operations against militants in Gaza.
The Israel Defense Forces have attacked more than 1,000 terror targets in the Gaza Strip, and it continues its operation in this very moment. It causes significant blows to the weapons aimed towards Israel, its operators, and the people who send them. We are exacting a heavy price from Hamas, and the terrorist organizations and the Israel Defense Forces are prepared for a significant expansion of the operation.
As the violence continues, world leaders are calling for restraint, and there are some efforts to get a ceasefire, to get negotiations underway. But the aerial assaults between Israel and Hamas continue, and the death toll is climbing. Joining us live now in Gaza City is CNN's Sarah Seidner, and I want to talk to you about where you are. We know that you are in an area where the violence has been relentless. What are you seeing today?
Well, we're back in the office where we've been reporting live for the past 5 or so days. What I can tell you is we went down into the streets to look at some of the damage from the airstrikes over the past couple of days. We saw the police headquarters, for example, that was hit. There were other areas hit as well, like Hamas headquarters itself, the cabinet headquarters. And we went to a couple of neighborhoods where we know that there were 3-story buildings where people were living had been pancaked. We talked to some of the people inside, and they were told that their area was going to be hit. In fact, we talked to one of the people inside those homes where their families were, and they were called and told to evacuate immediately, and so they did. No one ended up dying in that airstrike because many people were warned beforehand, though there were 15 people who were injured. We've heard the same story from some others, that they were called right before the strike, or at least in a few hours before the strike, to leave the building or the area where they are. So there are some communications happening with the people on the ground to try to get people out of the way when an airstrike is going to happen. We've also seen rockets, several of them, coming from here in Gaza City out into towards Israel. Oftentimes you see 4 at a time going. It's a very loud sound when you're close to it, and certainly the airstrikes you know, because you hear the planes usually overhead, and then eventually you hear the sound of a bomb falling and the black smoke that results from that.
And Sarah, you know, we know that you mentioned you've been on the ground there, and I want to talk about what's happening there in those communities, in those neighborhoods. How are people coping with this, taking shelter? What are they doing day to day?
You know, they're just trying to kind of stay inside. You know, we won't see many people on the streets. There aren't a lot of people sort of roaming around, although I've noticed today a few more cars than there have been over the past few days, a few more people out on the streets, different from what we've seen over the past few days. For a while there, it was eerily quiet, nobody in the streets, all of the businesses shuttered, although most of the businesses are still closed. We were just near one of the TV stations here, the Al-Aqsa TV, which is basically Hamas's official television station, and we know that that building was hit. There were several people injured, journalists inside that building, but we did understand that there was a phone call made to some of the journalists inside saying that the building was being targeted and to get out. Many of them did get out, but it was several hours before the strike, and some of those journalists decided to go back in the building, and those journalists were hurt.
CNN's Sarah Seidner in Gaza City. We appreciate your reporting, Sarah. Thank you. So far, Palestinian fighting has been confined to Hamas-controlled Gaza. Palestinians in Fatah-controlled West Bank have not taken up arms. But as Ben Wiedemann reports, they have been showing their support for the Gazans.
In the West Bank, Palestinian protesters don't have rockets, only rocks. Outside the town of Betunia, hundreds of young men took part in a demonstration against Israel's offensive in Gaza that quickly deteriorated into a familiar scenario. Young men throwing stones, curses and taunts, more stones and bottles. With tear gas, thick, choking clouds of it, and rubber bullets coming back. Others watch the action